let me tell you, it's big. Like I was not expecting that. Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of how I became a tissue viability nurse. Thanks for coming back. If you saw the last one, you would know that it was kind of based on my experience in Canada and how I became a wound care nurse there. And then this video will be specifically more about the UK side of things and the processes that I went through to become a tissue viability nurse here. So let's get on with it. I think just a big disclaimer, for sure my previous experience in Canada made a huge difference and kind of gave me a bit of an edge in my applications here, even though the titles aren't the same, but the principles were the same. So I obviously practiced in wound care and I use a lot of the products. I know how to recognize certain wounds and their etiologies, and then what my basic care plan would be for them based on the standard things that we know about wounds. So it did make a huge difference, but that's not to say that the principles from how I got to my first wound care gig in Canada can't be applied here too. So just a quick recap from the last video. Basically, get the education, make sure your CV is tailored towards the fact that you want to be a tissue viability nurse, and then find out ways where you can gain experience, whether that be bank shifts or casual if you're Canadian, or shadowing, or just becoming a link nurse is huge. That's like super useful to building up your experience. And yeah, so totally recommend those things because they certainly helped me, especially in the interview process. Another thing that really helped me was looking into the role to see what exactly it entailed. So I was very lucky to have a colleague who actually worked as a TVN in the UK, and then she had moved back to Canada, so I got to rack her brain about it. She still had connections over here in the UK who are tissue viability nurses and have kind of made their way up the ranks, and connected me with those nurses, and so I got to ask them a lot of questions about what happens, what do they do, what do I need to prepare myself for it, etc., etc. And so yeah, that just kind of gave me a better idea of what a tissue viability nurse does. And again, I would highly recommend that, because as I'm experiencing, there's a lot of people and a lot of professions don't fully understand the scope of practice for a tissue viability nurse, and let me tell you, it's big. Like I was not expecting that. I actually started applying for TVN jobs back in Canada, and I went on the job search engines like Indeed, and then I also did the NHS ones, and I applied for mostly band 6, but I did apply for some band 7. So my understanding at the time still is that when you start specializing, your automatically entry point is a band 6 level for a specialist nurse. So I didn't want to get too ahead of myself, and then based on the job descriptions, it looked like band 7 also included some managerial tasks, which I've never had any experience in, so I didn't want to overwhelm myself too much. So I just applied mostly for band 6, and I did that within England. So I didn't really venture off too far, because I just out of comfort's sake, I'm ready to go into a different country. I don't want to like broaden my horizons too much too quickly. And I did apply for a couple of band 7s just to see what would happen, and figured why not gain a little bit of experience in management if I'm ready to go into a different country. So yeah, so I did do England, quite a few applications, but I have a feeling because of my resume had my Canadian address on it, because I obviously didn't have the UK one, it probably deterred a lot of employers from even interviewing me, because work visas and the paperwork involved with them are just, they can be a nightmare. So I totally understand, But it was nice to be able to at least get a feel for what the market was for TVNs, and it's quite substantial actually. I think I would check every 2 weeks and there would be like 5 new postings somewhere in England. So there's definitely a demand for it. It's just a matter of where you're willing to go. I personally just kind of stuck to larger cities because in my experience, when you have nursing in smaller cities or rural cities, the scope of practice for the nurse is quite wide, and I didn't want it to be, I'm already going to a different country, so I didn't want to spread myself out to a whole bunch of other tasks. So, and then also because I didn't want to isolate myself in a smaller place. So yeah, living and experiencing what this country has to offer was important to me. So I think being in a bigger city was better for my transition as well. But you could be anywhere in your point of life, so do what you think is best. And when I did move to the UK, I also continued to apply, and I got an interview first with an NHS trust, which I obviously wasn't successful with, and the interviewer, so one of the managers on the panel, she was so sweet. She had called me afterwards to basically tell me I didn't get the job, but then she said she really identified with my journey because she had the same experience. She immigrated from a different country to come to the UK and gain tissue viability experience. So she really wanted to coach me and help me with my future interviews, and basically wanted me to be successful. So I was like super grateful for that. She called me on the weekend, spent an hour of her time just like telling me, you know, you did well in this, maybe don't do that, and talk more about this for sure kind of thing, right? And I mean, it obviously worked because a week later I did my next interview with where I'm currently working and I got an offer. So really grateful to her. Thank you so much for taking the time to help me out, and I don't think you'll ever see this video, but it is now documented in internet world, so I am truly grateful for you. Thank you so much. I think another factor that played a role is that my brother convinced me to make a LinkedIn profile, which is like totally not even on my radar because as healthcare professionals, when do you ever need a LinkedIn profile? I think especially because when I was from Alberta, where all nurses are hired essentially by the same employer, Alberta Health Services, so it doesn't really matter because you guys get hired by the same people. So I didn't find really much of use for it, but because my brother, he specializes in recruitment, that's what his business is all about, I was like, okay, I'll listen to him. So I did make one. I added people to my network, and then it turns out one of my friends actually knows the people who are going to interview me. So it's like, okay, that's a crazy small world. But I think that also made a huge difference because there's something to be said about common connections, especially if the person you know is someone that's trustworthy and of good character. It says a lot about the other person as well that's associated with them, usually. So yeah, I've come to learn that when hiring, it's not just about the skill set that the potential candidate brings, but it's also like their character, like are they a good fit for the company's values or the trust values, and will they share the same vision that the team has. So that was a nice surprise, definitely helpful on a different level, and appreciative of that too. That's basically how my journey of becoming a tissue viability nurse. There's also obviously lots of differences that you might have from me, but if you have any further questions or want more details, feel free to comment below and let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. And then if there's enough questions, I can make another video as well. But yeah, I hope that was helpful, and I hope to see more of you in this field with me, and we can battle wounds together. Okay, thanks. Bye.